Now we want to bring on with us the Sheriff of Eddy County, Mr. Mark Cage. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Gene. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, we couldn't have you on Thursday. You had a meeting scheduled, but we did want to get you on before too long, and we appreciate you taking time to be with us today, and hope you and your family had a very blessed Easter weekend.
We did, actually. Very quiet. All of our kids were gone, so Carolyn and I had a good one.
Well, that is fantastic. We spent the afternoon with Lana's mother, and I say we spent the afternoon. We ate, talked for a little while, and then somebody took a nap. I'm not going to say who. But they fell asleep right there in the chair. I wanted to talk to you specifically about the recently passed marijuana bill that the governor was so insistent that we get approved this year that she called a special session of the legislature because they couldn't quite get it done during the 60-day session. So she called them back for a couple of days and got a bill passed, and I don't know if she signed it yet or if she's waiting for April 20th to sign it. I'm not entirely sure what her timing is going to be on that. I'm sorry, that's a horrible joke. But now that it's been signed, now that it's gone to her desk, you're in law enforcement, obviously. What are you reading in the bill? What are you learning about the bill, and how is this going to impact your agency and how it enforces laws in the state of New Mexico when it comes to marijuana?
Well, my main problem with it, and the major problem with it, obviously, is that marijuana is still illegal federally, and that creates a whole mess of problems because we deal with a lot of federal agencies. Now, of course, with the current administration, I doubt that any of the alphabet agencies, DEA, ATF, FBI, any of them are going to be concerned about. They're probably going to have their orders from their administration not to mess with marijuana. But I still have an issue with that, and I mean it's not as much a law enforcement issue when you start looking at it, but you start looking at the different areas with gun possession, with purchasing weapons, and when you fill out the form, there's a lot of ambiguity there as to how those questions get answered on the form. So, but then you go back to to specifically address the question you asked about how it's going to affect law enforcement. Mm-hmm. We don't have. Here's one that came up just recently, and it's a huge problem. We don't currently have canines at the sheriff's office, but there are 3 of them at Carlsbad Police Department that we partner with them quite a bit with the drug task force and just with general operations, and we utilize those drug dogs a lot. Well, the problem is those drug dogs are trained to hit on marijuana, mm-hmm. heroin, cocaine, this whole myriad of drugs, and it's going to be a steep climb to desensitize those dogs, if it's even possible to desensitize them from hitting on marijuana, which will jeopardize cases. Because if the dog hits on, and we do a search warrant on a vehicle, and they say, oh, well, the dog hit on something that's perfectly legal here in the state. It hit on marijuana, so you can't charge me. That's the fruits of the poisonous tree, is what we call that in our search and seizure law. So that's a huge issue. I can tell you right now, this golden goose that I guess our governor thinks this is the golden goose, that it's going to create $100 million to help offset the $2 to $4 billion that we're losing on oil and gas.
Right.
You can talk to some of these other states, and even liberals in those states are going, man, I wish we hadn't done this. Like Colorado. There are so many. Their government is just like, man, we really wish we had not done this. This is not helping us at all.
Yeah.
So,
because I think it's up to 17 states, or there's around 17 states that have passed recreational marijuana. Did they ever get to the issue of past records? How does the New Mexico law affect people that have had prior arrests and convictions for marijuana possession?
that's another thing that I personally have a huge problem with, is they're talking about, and I need to make sure, because I haven't read I've read the final, I haven't digested it completely, but there were pieces and parts in there. They want to let people out of jail and expunge their records, their criminal records, because it's not illegal now.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem with that: those folks that are in jail for dealing marijuana, for trafficking marijuana, for all these, they knew that was illegal at the time. They chose to break the law.
Right.
So therefore, they're de facto criminals. That's what they. Why would, just because you've legalized it now, why does that suddenly become okay that they broke the law before? They knowingly broke the law. That's the problem I have with it. And I think, and maybe that does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people have a better outlook on it than I do. But I just feel like if you choose to break the law, then you are, in fact, a criminal. You can't change that just by changing the law. Now, from here on out, yes, they're not breaking the law.
Right.
How do you just go back and go, oh, okay, well, it's okay now?
Yeah, I got a speeding ticket back when the speed limit was 65, but now that it's 70, I shouldn't have gotten the speeding ticket, so I want to have that taken off of my points.
Perfect analogy. Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's a mess. It's a mess. And here's the thing: everybody says, well, they had 60 days to do it, and they couldn't get. No, they had a whole year. A whole year from the last legislative session, because they were talking about it back then. They tried to do it back they've had almost 2 years to do it, really.
Right.
And 60 days, and they couldn't get it done because they knew there were problems with it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the convenient thing, Gene, is did anybody take a look at how many bills the governor actually signed that had been passed in the 60-day session?
Out of this last session, I have not seen the list of bills or the
She
number.
didn't sign very many, and what we're being told is she was holding them hostage, saying, you will get this done, or I may not sign, I may pocket veto some of your bills.
So
and that makes perfect sense to me.
Twisted, look, I understand political wrangling and negotiations and tactics, and it's a mean game, but I think where people have a problem with it, or at least I do, is this is what she was holding all of this other stuff hostage for, was this particular piece of legislation.
Yeah.
And I think
I don't understand why that's why that's the hill that she decided to die on, but that was it. It was marijuana will be legalized one way or the other, and suddenly they were able to do it in a few days.
Right. Well, a lot of times they tell you follow the money, and where is the money in the marijuana business? And it's, as you said, it's still federally, it's against the law. It's like if a client wanted to come to us and say, hey, I want you to run some ads for my recreational marijuana store, I get a license from the Federal Communications Commission. My license doesn't come from the Michelle Lujan Grisham Communications Commission. It comes from the feds. And all of my people in Washington, our FCC counsel, is saying, stay away from it. No, you can't. It's against the federal law. Like you said, I don't know that this current administration would make any kind of a deal out of it, but
well, I can guarantee the banks do, federally insured banks.
Right.
The FDIC, no, those banks will not touch marijuana money. They won't do it. So why do you think they were trying to create a state bank in this last legislative session?
I know.
That was part of it.
Yeah.
And it failed. But there's a big issue when you start looking at, who's going to handle all this money.
Mm-hmm. Which is another problem that may infect law enforcement of certain types of crimes, that if there's marijuana money that's a part of the money trail, can that lead to a charge on something illegal being done with some of those dollars? What about in the areas of employers? Can employers still say, no pot, no drinking, no pot, no smoking? I mean, are employers still allowed to do that?
Yes, of course. And that's another thing that the courts have said too, is like you're able to say no marijuana at all, for now at least. Not just that you can't use it at work, you cannot use it and be employed by me. And I guarantee you that's the fact in public safety, like law enforcement. The county, I guarantee the county is going to have a no weed policy. You cannot smoke it. If you get caught, you're done. And so far, the courts have upheld that, and they've said that, and at least, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I think it is that case for private business. I know it is that case for government business.
Yeah.
Because there's so many implications to it, with it being illegal federally. I mean, I have folks who are task force officers, some of my deputies with federal agencies. The federal agencies have a no drug policy whatsoever, and marijuana is still a Schedule 1, considered a Schedule 1 narcotic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, legally, there is no medical use for it. And now, I'm medical marijuana is a completely different thing, and I have my own views on medical marijuana.
Sure.
But right now, as far as the legalities of it, it is a Schedule 1 drug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's illegal federally. So right now, that's still in play. I foresee that changing very rapidly. I see the feds changing their view on it. I see some, it's snowballing.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. When alcohol, you're not supposed to drive under the influence of alcohol, and there are things that law enforcement can do when they stop somebody suspected of driving under the influence. Under the recreational marijuana legislation, are there any tools, or what can law enforcement do when it comes to determining whether somebody is under the influence of, say, marijuana?
Yes, but I guarantee the legislature didn't have anything to do with that. DWI enforcement in New Mexico is a lie. I'll tell you that right now. We make this big, and I'm not talking about law enforcement. I'm talking about New Mexico as a state. We make this big thing because we got in a lot of trouble years back because we had the highest DWI rate in the nation, highest DWI fatalities in the nation. So that there's this big push made. Well, I'm telling you right now, this big push is a lie. It's money being thrown at it. We go and we do our enforcement action. We have people like Cindy Sharif, who works her butt off with her people to do the DWI enforcement programs in the state, and it gets into state case law, and we're a joke. We are a joke. To get a DWI conviction in New Mexico is insane. It is insanely hard. And more times than not, you don't get the conviction because of some minor technicality. And I'm having to watch my tongue here so I don't curse on air. But the same thing holds true with impaired driving for drugs. Now we have what's called DREs, drug recognition experts, and this new program. But it's a very expensive program to get someone through. Very intense to be able to recognize this. Now we can recognize that folks are impaired, but we have no per se test like a breathalyzer. It's all blood, and then when you do that, marijuana stays in your system. It can stay in your system for a month to 2 months. THC can. So where's the limit? You see, and that's the other problem I have with this. What this legislature did, they put the cart before the horse. You want to legalize marijuana, fine and good, do it. Whatever. If you're bound and determined to do it, there's nothing I can do to stop you. But at least get the infrastructure in place to handle it. We don't have that infrastructure in place. And society's going to pay a toll. Our society here in New Mexico is going to pay a toll for that because we're not equipped to effectively enforce impaired driving with marijuana when it becomes this big popular thing that everybody can do.
Now, people will say, and this is people talking, people that are drinking think they're super people and they'll get in the car and drive even though they've had, a couple of beers or wine or whatever. They're impaired, but they don't think they are, and they go out there and drive. But people that smoke marijuana, they chill out. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. You're in law enforcement. What is there any truth to that at all? Are there some similarities between driving under the influence of alcohol versus driving under the influence of drugs such as marijuana?
Well, there's obviously a difference. Alcohol is a stimulant. Marijuana is a depressant.
Okay.
It does tend to make people more lethargic, and I can guarantee you, here's one thing, and I will say this, and I might get criticized. I don't really care. I would rather deal with someone out on the street who is stoned on weed rather than someone who's drunk, because the drunk, obviously, the stimulant, they can be much more aggressive. With the weed, they're generally more passive, and they're easier to deal with. That being said, I've not seen any difference. There's people that drive around stoned just like they drive. People have to go somewhere, right?
Right.
They've still got the same things to go do. And being stoned isn't going to stop them from doing that. Now there are responsible people out there. I'm sure there's responsible marijuana users that sit at their house, get stoned, and are happy and don't do anything. But there's plenty of there's folks out there that are going to be driving around like, completely impaired, and we're going to have to deal with that.
Because you've got, right, because you mentioned on the alcohol, I mean, there's a blood alcohol limit, there's a breathalyzer test that one can be administered. There's a
set limit there, and we still can't get people convicted on it. How do we think we're going to do anything with something that we don't even have an effective measurement tool for?
Right, because you're saying with the marijuana, it's a blood test, and it's not a breathalyzer. There's not a breathalyzer test. Or is there?
Right.
For
they have some mouth swab tests out there and some other stuff, but none of it. And I can guarantee you, when it goes through New Mexico courts, it'll get thrown out because that's what we've done here in New Mexico. We have case law that says that the HGN, the horizontal gaze nystagmus in the eyes, that's one of the most effective ways to tell impairment by alcohol, and throughout the nation, an officer, deputy can testify to that in court. In New Mexico, a deputy or a law enforcement officer cannot testify to the effectiveness of HGN. You have to bring in an ophthalmologist
to read the test results, I guess.
To talk to the jury to say, yes, this is we can't even talk about it. Because we're not qualified, we're not medical. But everywhere across the nation, law enforcement, it's a simple test. It's the one where they just watch it's the involuntary jerking of the eye, and impairment causes it to be much more pronounced. So, but no, we're not allowed to do that. So I can guarantee you, any test that we get brought up in New Mexico, our Supreme Court is going to go, we don't like that test unless you're going to bring in some high-paid doctor to talk about it, you don't get to use that in court. That's just how it works here. It's horrible.
And you can see that coming with marijuana stops.
Yeah, if we can get a test.
Yeah.
Who knows when that's going to happen?
Yeah. So
well, and then Gene, look at the startup cost of this. We were told this is the goose that's going to lay golden eggs for us.
That's right. The 21st century economy, Sheriff. The 21st century economy is coming to New Mexico.
But we've got to invest. What is it? How many millions? 100 million into it? I don't remember what they said. 90 million? No, it wasn't that much. Maybe it was 9 million. I don't remember. But we're not going to make any money on this until at least 3 or 4 years down the road. In fact, we're going to actually have to spend millions of dollars to subsidize it.
Yeah. They're using the movie industry model.
Yeah, that worked out so well for us.
Hey, we got Netflix.
Yeah. Woo.
So, this is going to be, and when you talk to other law enforcement officials, is there a commonality of thought of just what you're about to be confronted with as law enforcement agencies across New Mexico?
Yes, because you know what, we don't even debate the moral implications, whether people should smoke pot or not. We don't even talk about that part anymore. We talk about because there's so many different views. We talk about how we're going to deal with this animal, and our legislature just tossed a ticking time bomb into our laps. So here you go, have fun.
Yeah.
Woo! Look at us, we're cool. Please vote for us again because we're going to let you get high. And meanwhile, here we are cleaning up the mess afterwards because they give us no tools. As a matter of fact, they even look to limit our tools, like with HB4 with the New Mexico Civil Rights Act.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I've got a couple minutes left, and I was going to ask you about that. Did that pass, and are people still trying to figure that one out and the ramifications of that one?
No, it passed. It passed.
There's a lot of people opposed to that. I mean, there were a lot of people trying to convince the legislature don't do this, and I guess they just didn't get listened to again.
Oh, no, they didn't care. Brian Egoff, that was his baby. And nobody should be confused about Brian Egoff is as powerful or more powerful than the governor.
Mm-hmm.
That was his baby. Marijuana was the governor's baby. Those things were going to get passed, no matter who had to be bullied, no matter how much money it cost, no matter who opposed it, those were going to get passed.
Wow. So when can I go buy a joint?
Oh, heck. What is it going to be, June?
June? Is that...
Everybody's gearing up. Shoot, we can. You and I. You want to start a new enterprise with me, Gene?
Sure. What are we doing?
We're going to sell, and we're going to sell it. I'm joking. I've got no interest.
We'll have a lounge. We'll call it the radio
let's do a lounge.
The smoke-filled lounge, and we'll just kind of, invite people in, and we'll play talk radio in the background and
bowls of gummies sitting around.
Oh, we laugh, but it's a lot more serious than that. I mean, this is a serious issue.
Might as well laugh about it, because what are we going to do? We're just going to have to buckle down and figure out how to handle all this mess.
Yeah, that is just truly amazing. Well, I know it just passed last week, and that's why I wanted to have you on to just kind of make people aware that this is what law enforcement is going to have to navigate through and try to deal with as we move forward in this. Sheriff, is there anything? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Take it all out.
Yeah.
Take out all the emotion of whether you should or shouldn't smoke weed. Look at the logistics of it. If you want to do it, but do it right. Let's implement it correctly. And I guess that's my parting thought is, whatever they're gonna pass whatever they want to pass. You can fight it all you want, but at least give us the tools to deal with it. But
so
that didn't happen.
we know where the borders are. We know where the lines are. We know where the parameters.
Well,
what are the parameters here?
Yeah, don't use borders because that doesn't work.
I'm still surprised Senator Purtle didn't get his time change thing slid into this thing, because that...
They should have put that in the marijuana bill.
Yeah.
It'd have been for sure to be passed.
Because they say people that are high don't care what time it is anyway, so let's just pick one.
Yeah, because it might be confusing to have to keep changing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sheriff, thank you so much for your time. I
Yes,
really
sir.
do appreciate it. And if there's anything else that comes up you want to get on the radio and talk with us about, let us know, and we'll make time for you.
All right, enjoyed it, Gene. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you very much. Sheriff Mark Cage with us and his reaction to the marijuana legislation that's passed the House that will be signed soon by our glorious leader. We are going to take a quick break, open up the old